Now in this video, we'll be learning about grouping of data inside pivot tables. We have learned about how to create basic pivot tables. Let's go one step beyond grouping part. Now let's try to create date-wise sales in Excel. Okay, so here we keep a cursor in the data. In the insert menu bar, we can click on pivot table. Raw data is selected, target destination selected. In case by mistake, if there's a blank column, for example, if you see the dotted lines over here, it's very small, but the dotted lines on the right hand side telling you that the data is selected. But let me cancel. Suppose in this column C, I insert one blank column. Okay. Now if I keep my cursor in the data, and now if I click on insert menu bar pivot table, carefully observe the data is only selected till here. That means even if there's a blank column in between or a blank row in between, the data won't be selected properly. So I have to do it manually. Remember, I have to click on cancel, delete the blank columns and blank rows. So if there are blank rows and blank column, there's a discontinuity in the data. Discontinuity data will not allow you to select. So the best option is Control A. You select the whole data, insert menu bar pivot table, and then click on OK. Now there's a simple pivot table created. If you click outside, you see there are two menu bars, pivot table analyze, design menu bar. If you click outside anywhere, this tabs or the menu bars will go away. So if you click inside this box over here, the right hand side window comes, the top tabs also comes over here. Now what we want to find out here is the date wise sales. So we will pick up here dates into rows, and we will pick up here, let's say, sales into rows. We just picked up one column, but if you observe here on the right hand side, we have got quarters, months and days, everything. So it is automatically done the grouping part. Okay. So that's an automatic grouping when it is possible, when all the data in this particular column is a date data type. If you enter by mistake the textual value, it will not work. So remember, the data should be consistent in that column. Coming back to our sheet. Now, instead of this date, I want to find out age-wise. Okay. If you observe here, there's a sales done. There are people of different age. Now, my boss is asking me, tell me what age group people are doing a good job. Are Gen Z people doing a good job? Okay, who is between 20 to 30, or some people who are in 30 to 40, they are trying to do a good job. See, people who are in 30 to 40, they are stuck into paying the EMIs, house rent, and many more things. They are married, they have kids and everything. So 30 to 40, they have a lot of pressure. Maybe they might be performing better. 20s to 30s, they're not married. They are still like in a college life. They might do lesser sales. 40s to 50, they use their entire experience to find out how to do a better sales. So my boss has asked me to find out which age group they are doing a good sales. So let's do it. So in the sheet 4, I'm coming here. Now on the right hand side, I can remove the years and dates and months, everything. How do I remove? Drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop. Here I can pick up age into rows. When I drag and drop age into rows, carefully observe from 25 to the age of 65. Usually 65 people retire. So till the age of 65, these are the sales which are done by those people. Now I can right click, sort the number largest to smallest. So I can tell you at the age of 57, people have done a higher sales. So it can be 1%, 10 people, I don't know. So same way 62, 41, there's no consistency in the data. What I need to do is I need to group the data properly. So let me right click and sort the data, smallest to largest. So how do I club the data? By default, it will not club, it will not group. The topic right now we're learning is grouping of data. So I want to group between, let's say 10 years of bracket, 25 to 35, 35 to 45, and so on. So I can right click on this numbers over here. And if you see, there's an option given as group. When I click on group option, there's a dialog box which comes over here. It tells me the starting age will be 25 and the ending age would be 65. I have not given it. It automatically fetched from the data set 25 to 35, and the grouping has to be done by the interval of 10. Now, when I click on OK, carefully observe what happens. After you click on OK, it gives us the values. Now I can tell you 25 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 to 54. Now I can right click, sort data, largest to smallest. Now I can tell you people who are in the age group of 55 to 65, they have done a good sales. 35 to 44, less sales. 25 to 34, less sales. So suppose I was a manager in that company, and if these people have done a good job, I would have given them a gifts. What kind of gifts I have given them? I will not give them headphones and pen drives and chip phones. I will give them something which is useful at their age. Okay. So if these people have done a good job, 25 to 34, I would have given them iPhone. I would have given them a bike or something. Suppose I am the manager for them. So this is something I have to think properly. I have to understand, analyze, and take a decision. Okay. If you give them headphones and bikes and iPhones to this category people, your company will not survive. You need to give exactly what they need. Okay, so that is a categorize wise. Now, if I want to ungroup, right click, then you can select ungroup option and then it will be ungrouped over here. So this is how you can find out the answers. Remember, if it is a date data type, it is done grouping automatically. If it is a number data type, you have to do it manually. The grouping of text cannot be done. Grouping of other text also cannot be done. Okay, so that is how you can find out the answers.
How to use aggregations in Microsoft Excel. What are aggregations? Sum, average, minimum, maximum, clubbing of data, adding some calculations is becomes aggregations. So how do we give the aggregations in Microsoft Excel? Let's find out. So we have the product wise sales and quantity. So we want to find out what are the average sales, what is the minimum sales, what is the maximum sales of the products. So same applies for the quantity as well. So to create a pivot table, we have learned a method. Keep your cursor in the data, insert menu bar, pivot table, click on OK. We can bring product into rows. We can bring here, let's say, sales into values. So this becomes our sales by product. So I don't want to find out the sum. I want to find out what is the average of sales. So here there are various methods. One method is double click on the sum of sales heading. One is if I double click, and this here comes a dialog box. This dialog box gives us various options. It tells us sum, count, average, minimum, maximum, and so on. So by default, we want to find out the option as average. The moment we select the option average, click on OK. This gives us the average of sales. Instead of sum of sales, average of sales. And here the decimals are very lengthy, so it is confusing for us to find out the right answers. So select this numbers. You can click on this button 1, 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6. So this becomes our average of sales. I can right click, sort the data largest to smallest, and I can tell you the average of smartphones, VR headsets and washing machine is much higher. These are the top 3, and the bottom 3 smartwatch, speaker and camera. These are the average sales which are much lower over here. Same way, I want to find out the minimum. Okay, one method is I can double click on the header. Second option is I can click on this button, click on this value field settings, and the same dialog box appears over here. That's very simple and easy option. Now here I will select this sum again, click on OK. But now suppose when I go for presentation and it becomes difficult for me to explain to my boss, okay, that smartphone is having the highest and lowest, I have to speak the number. I won't remember the number. So I have to say 38, 60, 139. Okay, I have to say 37, 12 and 415. That's a number. I can tell them in terms of percentage. Okay, so how do I do that? Double click, show value as, this is the option, and here I can tell them the percent of grand total, percentage of grand total. Instead of sum, average, minimum, maximum, I can click on OK. So I don't have to write any calculations. No using keyboard, still get the answers. When we click on OK, and this gives us the value, I can right click, sort largest to smallest. Now for me, it is very easy to explain. Smartphones have contributed 7.34 percentage in the overall sales of all the products. And then TV has contributed 6.22, which is the lowest in across all the places. So earlier people used to buy laptops and PCs and monitors and everything, but now people are buying more and more smartphones. So people are moving towards some other location right now, you see. And if you see, the laptops has reduced 6.3 percentage. Here people are more in crowd. So the boss can take quick decision what the next should be done. So this is one example, the aggregation part. And suppose if I try to drag quantity into this values, here also for the quantity I can do the same thing. I can either double click on the heading, I get the same window. I can select count, which is already a count. I can find out average, click on OK. So these are average of quantity of those particular products. Now this is for product. I can tell you for city, for country, for managers, everyone. So let's find out for the managers, because there's a appraisal time in the month of April and we want to give the appraisal. We will find out that manager who has given the highest percentage contribution to the revenue, okay, of the company. So right click, we can sort the data largest to smallest. So we find out Johnson, he is the person, 2.63. Then Tom Cruise, 2.46. And Gappu Singh has 2.39. Shah Rukh Khan, 2.39. When we scroll down, which manager has contributed the lowest? Let's find out the answer. So the name is Silly Sharma, Narendra Modi ji, and John Smith. They have contributed the lowest in as compared to other people. So this is how you can find out quick answer. So this is what you call aggregations in Microsoft Excel for pivot table. How do we do the formatting on a pivot table? Formatting plays a very important part over here, and we have a separate tab named as design tab, which we'll see right now very soon. The very first thing what we can do is we can delete the unwanted sheets from this location. We have selected, right click and delete. Unwanted sheets have been deleted. Now we'll create a pivot table from scratch and we'll try to do the formatting part over there. Let's try to understand. So we keep a cursor in the data, insert menu bar, pivot table, only 10 seconds to create a pivot table. So 5 seconds are done. Now we can pick up here, let's say country, and then we can pick up here city and sales. So when we do that, you can see on the left hand side, we have the data for country, city and sales. That's a portion over there. And now if you want, we can keep on adding. We can put here, let's say managers into rows. So if you see, the first one is country, then city, and then the managers who have worked in those particular places. Now if you see, the clubbing is done and there's a hierarchy which is created. And if I want to right click, and I can select the option as expand and collapse. Okay, so this is already expanded. We can click on collapse entire field like this, or let's say collapse entire field. Again right click, select the option as collapse entire field. So this way the first level is what you call as country. I can drill down, find out cities, then the managers options. But if I want to see all three together, how do I do that? When we keep a cursor in the data, which is pivot table, we have pivot table analyze and the design menu bar. So remember, the first one is related to functionality wise, okay, pivot table analyze. The second one, which is design, is related to cosmetic, how the data should look like, okay. So when we have the design tab over here, now what we can do is we can click on this drop down. There are various designs which are available. Now you can just try, when you move your cursor on the data, different designs are there. Depending upon your company logo, depending upon your client logo color, and you can find out based on the product or service which you offer, you can change the color from here. That is important, you can pick up. But now suppose I want data in 3 different columns. What I mean to say is, if you see, we have the country name, city name and the manager's name in a column. It becomes little cluttered, clumsy to watch if I want in 3 different columns. First column country, second column city, third column manager. Here we go, report layout. So we need to change the layout in which the report looks like. By default, the first one is selected, which is compact format. Compact format is there. I can select the option as outline format. Carefully observe row labels. The heading is given row label. What exactly is row label? I do not know. Okay, nobody knows it. So when I click on the outline form, carefully observe, it has divided into 3 columns. One is country, and second one is, if you see, city, and third one is manager. At least it has separated into 3 columns. It is easy to understand. But problem here is, if I scroll down, if manager walks in right now in the room, if he asks me Priyanka Chopra, which country, which city, I do not have the answer. I have to scroll on the top, find out the answer. Okay, so that way you have to scroll up and down. What I can save his time by selecting report layout, repeat all item labels. When the repeat all item labels are there, I can tell you now anything. Kapil Sharma, it is Australia, and Berlin, that is a place. So this is what you call as the option as outline format. The other one is tabular form. Carefully observe, the grid lines in this data is not there. Grid lines are outside. The boxes, if you see, here there are no boxes. So I can select the option tabular format, and now it is much better. If you see, there are some grid lines which becomes easy for the end user to read. So what we are learning right now, cosmetic things, functionality things we're not learning. Compact is by default in one column everything. Second one is the outline format. Third one is the tabular format. Now, if you think the item labels should not be repeated, we can click on do not repeat item labels. That is one option we can pick up. If you want to add a blank row, so if you see after Australia, immediately the other cities are started over here. If you see Australia total and then Brazil. If you think a blank row will make some sense after every place, so you can insert some blank line after that item. So every item, if you see, there's a blank item or blank row which is added. Okay. So if I click on Chicago, and you see after Chicago total, there will be a blank line. If you don't want, remove blank line after each item, that is fine, which is possible. So let me collapse entire field. Let me right click, collapse entire field. Yeah. So this way you can see, let me right click again, collapse entire field. Yes, perfect. So this way the data, the columns are there, but it is not showing any data right now. Same way, now if you see there's a grand total, the option on the right hand side at the bottom, it's grand total. If I don't want the grand total, I can select the option as off for rows and columns. The grand total will go away. It is not possible, it's not available. I can go back and bring back the on for rows and columns. The next one is subtotal. Let me expand this Australia, let me expand this Berlin, and if you scroll down at the bottom, carefully observe, we have a subtotal for Australia, for Berlin, and that's a subtotal. Suppose I don't want subtotals, I can go to subtotal option, I can say do not show subtotal, nothing is required. So then if you see, the Berlin subtotal has been discarded, it's not there, it has been discarded. If I want to bring back, I can tell them show all subtotals at the bottom of the group. So this way I've got the Berlin subtotal at the bottom. So that is one option. What we are learning right now is the layout or the cosmetic in simple language, color, background and everything. We can just design this properly. Then we have the row headers on the top. If you see, these are the row headers. The color of this row headers is changing. If I select column headers, you see the column headers cosmetic is changing. Then we have the banded columns. The alternate columns would be colored. Let me increase the size. You see banded columns. The last column has been colored over here, and there are some banded rows. Alternate rows would be colored. That's it. So these are some cosmetic thing which comes in the design tab. If you keep your cursor outside, the design tab goes away. If you keep your cursor inside, the design tab comes over here. So these are the options related to formatting of pivot table in Microsoft Excel. In this video, we'll take our pivot table little one step ahead, and we want to find out how do we create multiple sheets with the help of one pivot table. Now this is a very interesting topic, and it can save lot of time for you in the company. If you're a student in a college or school, you might understand this is a very big technique which very few people in the world know about Excel. Let's try to find out. We have this data about the dates, manager, we have the age group, country, city, and then sales and quantity. We have all this data. What we want to do here is we want to create a small table which will talk about, let's say, the product and the manager and the sales, but we want to filter by country. Different countries we want to filter. So first thing, we'll create a pivot table. Insert menu bar, pivot table, click on OK, and that's the simple steps. We will find out here the managers into rows, product into columns, and sales into values. So we have arranged the data properly. Let me show you like this. Carefully observe, the product names are on the column headers, row headers are the name of the managers, and then sales is given in the values, column, rows and values. What about the filters? We have not spoken about the filters till now, and let me explain some example here. Suppose, let me delete the sheet first over here, carefully observe. Now what we have is, we have only 3 sheets, index sheet, sheet 7 and raw data. Now when we show this data to a boss or manager or someone, okay, the first thing, carefully observe, column labels, row labels. Who knows what is column label, row label? A person has to see this pivot table to find out column labels means product, row label means that's a manager's. It should not be like that. When a person watches the data, it should be easy for them to understand. Design tab, report layout, show in tabular format. Carefully observe, now it is product and managers. We went to this show in tabular format option. Number 1. Second, my boss had a question and they had a doubt. How come the camera is done by technical Guruji and the sales is only 80,000? Can you explain me and give me all the answers? I can give all the answers in one click. So if they ask me about 80,000, do you have every data record of 80,000? The answer is yes. Simply double click. I have 3 sheets, index, sheet 7, raw data. The moment I double click over here, it will create a new sheet named as sheet 8, and this will give me only and only information about technical Guruji who has done a sales about the camera, okay, and that's the detail here. If I select this column, I can tell confidently to my boss the total is how much, 80,000 point whatever number it is there. So why? And now I can tell them in Spain this person has done the sales, Mexico it has done, Japan it has done. So I have answers of every question. Let me come back, raw data, sheet 7, let me find out. Now let's see one more. Suppose Bill Gates has done of 78,537. Boss got angry, found out why the number is low. We can double click on this 78,000. a new sheet is created named as sheet 9, which talks about only Bill Gates, or let's say by mistake I clicked on some other option, Bhuvan Bam, and that is giving about the drone value. That's the answer here. So coming back, I will delete the remaining sheets which are not required, like this one. So let me right click and then delete this option, and then we will create one more time, and now in more detail. So here insert menu bar, pivot table, we can click on OK. And here comes the managers into rows, the country into columns, and then we have the sales into values. Instead of country, we can put here something else, let's say as product into columns, and that's the value. Now, first thing, we went to the design tab, we found out the tabular format. Now, we found out at every point we can double click and get a new sheet prepared. But now the question arises, my boss has told me that there are 100 countries. The data is about the 100 countries. Can you give me every country a separate pivot table? For example, this data, which is the managers and the products, should be for UK, one sheet. This data which is for the managers and products for US, third sheet for India, fourth sheet for UK or some other countries. So one thing I can do here is we can just pick up the country from right hand side into filters. We are doing for the first time, we dragged and drop country into filters, and what happened here is on the top there's a country which is given. These are list of all the countries from the data set. Okay, so here if I select, let's say India, click on OK. Now this is the data all about India right now. If you are on this button, if you select Germany, click on OK, and that's the data about the Germany. When we click on this button over here, let's say Australia, click on OK. This is the data for Australia. But when I was in bench in my company, when there was no work 10 years back, my manager used to give me a lot of work and ask me 100 countries, create 100 sheets. And I was so innocent copy pasting every one by one sheet. Don't do that in the company. Now there's an easy method. Double click, you get all the sheets, 100 sheets in one click, possible. Please observe, not 100, we have less than 100, it's just 10, 20 places. But let me just, instead of country, let me put here city, because there might be many cities. If I put here, you can see there are some cities over there. Now Berlin, Chicago and London and everything. Now I want all the cities separate sheets. What are the steps? Carefully observe. Pivot table analyze. Click on this drop down which is options, and there's an option show report filter pages. We have index, sheet 10 and raw data. 3 sheets are there. If I want for every city, I want separate sheet, show report filter pages, click on OK. City is already selected. What is city here? City is available in the filters. When we click on OK, observe in 10 seconds or let's say 2 seconds, all the sheets would be created. I can click on OK, 1 and 2. So all the sheets are 3. 3-4 seconds, all the sheets are ready. So for Berlin, for Chicago, for Dallas, for Houston, for London, for Los Angeles, every city separate sheets are present. If you put here managers, you will get all the sheets for managers. If you put here country, city, state, product, anything, you will get list of all the sheets. Now, if you want to find out how many sheets are there, what are the name of the sheets? One method is you go there one by one. Second method is you can just right click on this place and you get this dialog box. This dialog box gives you list of name of all the cities, list of name of all the sheets available. So if I want to go to Tokyo, one method is you book a flight and go there. Second method is you can just select this, click on OK, and you jump to Tokyo directly, that particular sheet. So this way we have got the data directly in Microsoft Excel. So let's try one more example. If I want to delete, let me select, right click and delete, click on OK. And if I go back here, again I can select, right click, delete and click on OK. And some more sheets are there, so I can select, right click and delete. Now suppose I want to find out for different products. Maybe I can remove the city, put into columns, product into filters. So let's find out how many products are there. If you see, there are some 10-20 products whichever there. So here product is in filters, city and managers and sales. We want different sheets for different products. Steps are pivot table analyze, click on the options show report filter pages, and here in show report filter pages we have the option as product. And now when we click on OK button, you can see in 3-4-5 seconds all the sheets are given the names of the products. If you see, we have camera, drone, headphones, laptop, microphone and everything. When we right click, we have list of name of all the sheets which are the product names which are available. If I want to go to TV, select the option as TV and then click on OK. and jump on the TV sheet here. That's so easy. So I hope you've understood how to create multiple Excel sheets with the help of just one pivot table, and that's super easy. That's all for this video.